The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is The Loud List, where our random, rowdy, and raunchy band of misfits create top 10 lists of life's most insane shit. Be scared. Nothing is off limits. So congratulations.
You just made the list!
I'm the music god CJ Plain, and this is The Loud List. You know what we do here? We do top 10 lists that rock, or something similar there of top 10 lists, brackets, movie recastings. We haven't done any of those yet, but I've got a few lined up. We just have to get the schedule times worked out. But with all that said, today, joining us again, the gentleman and the scholar that allows me to do this awesome show on his network. And it does all the behind the scenes work for me and does it flawlessly and expertly because he has kept me on track, man. Like, this is the first podcast I've done out of about 6 that I have not missed a single week of. I normally, by about the 5th or 6th week, I will miss for some reason or another, or I'll lose the schedule. And I have not missed any. And this will be week 21 coming up this week. So that is amazing. Like, I am loving the fact that I am like 5 months in and haven't missed a single one. Over here, you're going to hear his voice. It's Mr. Mike Hilty, SPDM. Did I say that right? SPDM?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you got it.
SP Network. He's going to tell you about himself. He's going to tell you about some of the other great shows that are on the network. And then we're going to get into a very cool top 10 list that I have been dying to do and have not had anyone to do it with. So this one is going to be extra cool because there's a few on this list that I fucking love and adore and can't wait to talk about. How are you today, brother?
I am good. Thanks for having me back. You know, I get the privilege of having you on the network. So I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate the fact that you've entrusted me with this. So thank you for that. So glad to be back. Yeah, we just introduced our 22nd podcast on the network. So just a new one that we just joined the network from a guy named Rich Herrera. He does a podcast called Eat Your Content that mixes food and pop culture. So
nice.
Excited to have him on. I think he would be a good match for you to, potentially talk about some of the culinary stuff that you're doing on the back end. But I love,
a lot of people don't know that about me. I'm actually a very, very good cook with a lot of background in Filipino food and Asian food, Mexican food, Italian food. There's a reason I'm 257 pounds.
Filipino food, a man after my own heart, because I'm part Filipino. So
I did not know that. That is fucking amazing.
So many people think that I'm Hispanic, which makes sense because Filipino and Hispanic, right. The way that people look, it looks very similar. So and beyond that, like, we've got shows on the network. We mainly have shows about movies, just anything pop culture related. So if you are interested in starting a podcast, or you just want to collaborate, or you want to be a guest, we've got lots of podcasts on the network that's looking for guests. So if you are interested, let me know and I will connect you with the powers that be. And I mean, CJ and I met because he responded and we got to talking via email, and he did a couple of my podcasts. I've done a couple of his too. So excited to continue the collaboration. And I'm also very excited about this list because this list is not like any of the other lists that you've done so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that let me let my mouth catch up. Today we're doing the top 10 video games we loved growing up. Now, I have 10. I do have them in a top 10 list, but it doesn't necessarily reflect how much I played them or my love for them. I just kind of rank them according to a few factors. But this allowed me to, everybody knows the mainstays. Okay, you're going to have those games that obviously everyone played. They were universal. You kind of couldn't avoid them. I sort of stayed away from them for the most part. I had a set of games that I loved that were weird or super challenging or just different, kind of outside of the box stuff. And 4 of them on this list, I had major obsessions with. Like I spent so much money at arcades playing 4 of these games. So this is going to be kind of a trip down memory lane a little bit, and maybe introduce you to a few older games that maybe you forgot or maybe you haven't played in a while, whatnot. And we're just going to kind of go through and see, what we have in common. Because I'm sure there's at least 2 or 3 on here we'll probably have in common. So
there's bound to be at least 2 or 3 that we would have in common. If we don't have it in common, at least you would either remind me of a game. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that game, because I've got a good healthy mix of some games I played at an arcade and some games that I played at home as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I got. I got 1, 2, 3 that I played at our arcades. 2 of those were later on console, so I played them on console. There's a few that are PC, like computer games. There's a few that are like console type games, and everything in between. So I guess the first question I should ask is, do you have honorable mentions? Because we always start with, if we have more than 10, we might have a few honorable mentions.
I do have a bunch of honorable mentions on here. So I've got a computer game called The Seventh Guest that I played a lot.
I remember that one.
It's a game that you click, it's a fun little interesting game. I've got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on my list, and I have the game Area 51 on my list, the arcade game version. And then the last one that I have on my list is a game that I played on Sega Genesis called Earthworm Jim. Severely underrated game in video game lore. And man, we're bringing back all these games from the past. Why on earth is Earthworm Jim not back yet? I will never understand.
So I'm gonna talk about that more in a second, because there was another game that I would love to see redone in context with Earthworm Jim. It was also on Sega Genesis. My honorable mentions, my first one is a game called Burger Time. Burger Time was a silly little game where you had kind of a knockoff of Donkey Kong. In a way, we had to run around and you had to push the burger pieces down the chute, but you had to do it in order, and you had to avoid the little burger thieves, and it could be a bit frustrating. I played that originally on an arcade game, and then it went on to the Atari consoles.
Yeah.
And we are going to show our age on this one.
Yeah. We sure will.
First one is Burger Time. The second one is River Raid on Atari 2600. I spent way too many hours as a kid sitting in front of the TV playing River Raid. That perfect balance of shooting the planes down, but also searching for gas so you didn't crash and burn and run out of fuel. The third one, also on Atari 2600, I think a lot of our love for Indiana Jones movies started with the game Pitfall.
Yep, absolutely.
Pitfall was another game that was incredibly frustrating at times. Parts of it were very easy. Parts of it were just ridiculously hard for no good reason. And my fourth one and my last one, in conjunction with Earthworm Jim, I would love to see a remake of Earthworm Jim. And I would also love to see a remake of Booger Man. As nothing was more Ryan Reynolds related, more Justin Long, those type of guys, than a video game about a masked guy who ran around the sewers farting and flicking his boogers as a weapon.
Yeah.
A completely juvenile game that was really way more fun than it had any right to be.
I completely agree with you on that. That's
Vector Man was
great
another
pick.
one. I didn't put Vector Man on there, but Vector Man was another one that was a lot of fun, and I think they could do really incredible things with modern graphics and whatnot. So those were my honorable mentions. Those are the ones that they were the older games. We got them kind of out of the way for stuff that came after.
Got it. Good call.
So with that said, for number 10, what's the first one on your list?
So I do have these in order, and my first one, the reason why it's lower is because there's a different game in this similar genre in higher up on my list, but I have Street Fighter 2 on here.
Okay.
And I have the arcade version. And the reason why it's also number 10 is because I associate it with two things in my life. I associate Street Fighter 2 with Pizza Hut. Back in the day when you went to a Pizza Hut restaurant, you got a pan pizza, and then you spent a shitload of money on the video games that were there. So there's that. But unfortunately, also, I associate Street Fighter 2 with my parents' divorce because my dad would always take us to Pizza Hut before he dropped us back off. And he was like, go play video games if you want. And now all I can think about with Street Fighter 2 is Pizza Hut and abandonment.
Oh.
So yeah, Street Fighter 2, specifically that version, because there were other versions that came out, but that's the one that hooked me in.
So my number one is going to have a similar kind, but we'll get to that later.
I'm now curious because I'll be very curious because we
not the divorce part so much, but definitely the pizza place and the big Street Fighter type console. My number 10 is a game that was incredibly challenging. It took me a good long while to master it, but when I mastered it, I would fucking just rip people apart in this game. I don't even remember what console this thing was on. It was a game called Zaxxon. Zaxxon was a space shooter game, but it was 3D. So instead of it being side-scrolling like a lot of them were at the time, this was the board was kind of at an angle, and you flew, and you had to fly your ship up and down because the walls had height. There were depth. They shot missiles at you, and you had to go under the missiles, and you had to fly over the walls. So you had to have very quick hand-eye coordination to bring your ship like up and down, with like real gravity physics. It was a game that was way, way ahead of its time for both graphic content and gameplay. And I spent way too many hours playing this game because it was challenging. I mean, it was a game that like I said, you had to have hand-eye coordination, man, and you had to really pay attention because shit would come at you from the side, from the top, from the bottom. It was 3D immersive, man. And it was, like I said, it was way ahead of its time when it came to like gameplay of that sort. At a time when we had games like Defender and Gradius and Super R-Type, Zaxxon just took it to like an entirely new level and just turned that type of game on its head to the point where, it was like, okay, this is for the big boys over here. Like this was like the Madden of space, like flyer type games.
Nice.
I've
never heard of that one, so that's good to know that there were cool games like that I haven't heard of.
And I was curious about it as I was making this. So I looked it up, and there are videos of gameplay. So I would like to find, if this was like something, because there's websites where you can still play all the old games. So I'm gonna like go and see, can I find this to play and see just how terrible I am after having not played for, 25 years or whatever. Because when I graduated college, well, my first year of college, as I finished it, when I went to Cedar Point, I worked that summer at Cedar Point, one of my roommates had a game console, and it's killing me because I can't remember what game console it was, if it was a Sega or I think it was Sega, but I'm not 100% sure. And I was at work and I come home and I walked in and he had the TV and he was playing, and I stopped in the doorway and I was like, oh, hell no. He goes, what? I was like, you do not have Zaxxon. He goes, oh, no, dude, this is the new version. It's Zaxxon 3D. And I was like, give me the controller. I'm fitting to fuck you up, bro. Like, I'm fitting to run game on your ass. Watch. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay. So he handed me the second controller, and I proceeded to just, like I had been playing all along, and just whipped his ass. And he's like, okay, you've spent entirely too much time playing this game in the past. And I was like, dude, you are preaching to the choir on that one, bro.
No idea.
Like, while y'all fuckers were playing Miss Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, I was in the fucking room playing Zaxxon, bro. Like, like I never played Miss Pac-Man and all that shit that much. Mm-hmm. But Zaxxon, I played the shit out of Zaxxon on a one of the big arcade ones, and then they put it on console. And yeah, that was the very first game that come to mind when I started this list. Was Zaxxon was like the first thing that. So number 9 for you.
It's funny. I looked at my list, and most of these games, they're pretty basic. They're side scroller games. There's only one game on my list that is actually like a sports game, and that's NBA Jam. And
nice.
I'm a big basketball fan, so I loved NBA Jam. Being from Chicago as well. Yeah. It's hard not to love basketball in the 90s, but this was unlike any basketball game that's out there now, because you like every time that you hit a series of threes or a series of shots,
fire,
you're heating up. Or you do like one of those big jams where you like jump really high in the air and you do a flip, and then they say boom shakalaka. Yeah, it's just NBA Jam walked so games like NFL Blitz and
NFL Streets,
all of those games could run. I was very close to putting NFL Blitz on my list, but I figured I'll give a nod to NFL Blitz by paying tribute to the game that I actually played a lot more, since I am more of a basketball fan than NBA Jam. And it's weird. It's the reason why I don't like games like Madden or anything like that. Those games, they're too serious. Let's have some fun with this.
I love Madden. I love that they brought the college version of it back. But I don't take it that serious. I mean, silly teams up. I put the stats where I can just run the fucking score up.
There we go.
I don't play it on the level like where you have like Cam Newton versus fucking whoever Cam is playing against, and he's hitting his ass because Cam, he started this whole Twitch. I'm the best Madden player, and then I think it's Justin Jefferson come along and said, no, you're not, and just proceeded to fucking wreck his ass. And and they're all, back and forth. And it's like, dude, it ain't even that serious. It's fucking Madden, bro. Like, it's supposed to be fun. Like, if you're taking it to the point where you want to shoot each other or physically fight over it, then you're missing the whole fucking point of video games.
Calm down. It's supposed to be fun.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this shit ain't even that fucking serious, bro. So,
yeah.
All right. Number 9 for me, I come to my head right away because I just bought the boy a Switch 2. And that means I inherited his Switch. And I started playing the Super Mario Brothers U on the Switch or whatever, the new updated version. He come in and he said, was Super Mario Brothers 3 any good? And I was like, oh, dude, that was the original jam. Like, that was the game that, started the Raccoon Suit. It started the Underground ones. It was, so that was the first time he had played it. So he started playing today. And of course, he immediately just started running through the boards like he'd done it his whole life. And I'm like, screw you, dude. Like, we used to have to spend fucking hours getting to a board, and he just does it like he's done it for 37 years.
Right.
It's disgusting how good my son is at video games of every type, but I love him for it. So number 9 is Super Mario Brothers 3. because it's such a great game. And even now, having started playing it again, it's still a fun game. It's still challenging. It still has all of the great elements of what you love about Mario and the castles and everything else. And, so
it brought a unique twist to Mario Brothers because look, the first one is legendary. The second one kind of stumbled a little bit. The third one is where it really, really started to take off, literally. But I do also have Super Mario Brothers 3 on my list as well. It's a little bit higher up, but I debated for a while whether or not I wanted to include the first Super Mario Brothers because if you combine Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt kind of into that one, it's got a chance, but I can't deny that I played Super Mario Brothers 3 a lot more because I thought that all the different maps were really cool. I like all the secrets, like, hey, if you play a certain way, you could blow a whistle and then you get to skip a bunch of levels.
Right.
Different things like that. That was always really cool.
Yeah, and that's why I went with 3 over 1. One was great and it had its place and it was, it is the OG. But 3 really kind of just upped it to a level that, it added so many elements. The raccoon suit and the whistles and where you had to catch the 3 things to get things, it added elements that just weren't there in the other 2 and just kind of upped the gameplay. So, yeah. Number 8. What you got at number 8?
I'm a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. And the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have had a very checkered history when it comes to video games because there's been some good ones, but there's been a lot of bad ones. But to me, the best video game that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have ever been in is Turtles in Time. And Turtles in Time is one that I spent so much money on the arcade playing. And also when it came to the console, I think it came to either Nintendo or it came to Sega. I was so excited about that. And this was back in the day. Like these kids, I say that as if like these kids don't understand that you couldn't save any of these games. You just had to play them in one
if
go.
If you died, you went back to the beginning.
And that's it. There's none of this respawning crap or anything like that. No, like sometimes when you're done, you're done. And that's one of the beauty of games like these is that you played them in one sitting and it's not like you had to spend like 20 hours playing the game to start to finish and get all these side quests done. Sometimes it's just a pretty straightforward adventure game and that's really about it. And Turtles in Time was great because traveling back in time as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle was always a lot of fun, but you got to fight dinosaurs, you got to fight pirates, different shit like that. And that was always a lot of fun. So I tried to rack my brain to see if there was a better Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game out there, and I couldn't think of one. So Turtles in Time is my number 8.
Yeah, Turtles in Time was a great game, and there were a lot of turtle games, and there was, like you said, mixed results. Definitely played the big, 4-person arcade style multiple times. My number 8. I played this on the arcade version. This was one of the very first video games I ever played. I spent an egregious amount of my mom's money. My mom and dad divorced. I was 2 years old. Didn't ever get to see my mom again until I was almost a teenager. By that time, I've said this, I've told this story before, but I did some bonehead shit when I was 12. And
don't we all, brother, right?
Dad basically said, I don't fucking want to see you. You're going to live with your mother in California. Dad's like, until I calm down, I don't fucking want to see you or know you exist. So you're going to California. Now, this was 1983, right at the start of the hair metal thing. Mom lived 2 blocks off of Sunset Strip. I was getting ready to turn 13. If you knew anything about Sunset Strip back in the day, man, there were record stores, there were party stores, there were video arcades, there were fucking electronic stores, there was everything went on Sunset Strip, man. Like it was fucking crazy. And then of course you had all of the bands that hung out there and would give you music. You know, hey, we're a new band. Check it. Here's our demo, man. And you would hand out like little 45s and vinyls and shit like that, just to get you to try to come to the show and whatnot. And you know, I was like, dude, I'm like 13. I'm not even old enough to know the whiskey or the whatever. But one of the arcades, my mom was a big fan of this place because the owner, she had a crush on the owner. So she would go in and mostly just kind of talk to the owner. And I think he had a crush on her too, because they would sit and talk for hours and, you know, they would eat pizza and whatnot. I would play video games. And one game that I loved the most was Dig Dug. I played an egregious amount of Dig Dug.
Dig Dug. That's such a good game.
And I pumped so many quarters into that fucking thing that eventually the old boy, he come over and he's like, he took his little key and he's like, you ain't got to put no more quarters in this, boy. You can just hit the button and you can play for free. So you make sure nobody else plays the game, though. It's only you, you know. He wanted his quarters from everyone else, but he would even let me in like after hours sometimes to sit and play Dig Dug. And I would help him sweep. I would help him clean up and all that. And I played an incredible amount of Dig Dug. It was such a fun game. It was such a simple game.
Simple, yeah. I was just
like there was no grand adventure or scheme to it. You just had to be. You had to think and you had to just react. It's almost like Miss Pac-Man, kind of, you know, in a way. So it was just one of them games where you kind of turn your brain off and just, you know, left, right, up, down, left, right, up, down, 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 up. So number 8 is Dig Dug. Very good memories.
I really miss the days of just when games were pretty straightforward and simple.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like didn't have exaggerated stories and maps the size of an actual city that, you know.
Right. No,
I love games like that, but like I said, every once in a while, it's nice to just turn your brain off and do something simple. And you know, I have a game on my PC called Chicken Invaders. That's why I love Chicken Invaders, because you know you ain't really got to think. You just got to point, click, shoot, point, click, shoot, point, click, shoot. It's just, you know, it's a throwback to one of them times when, you know, there's no big grand reveal at the end. You're just killing chickens.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you're doing.
So number 7. What you got at number 7?
So this is my lone Super Nintendo game on the list. Okay. I am a Sega Genesis kid through and through. So when I visited my uncle in California, he had a Super Nintendo, and there were 2 games that me and my cousins would play a lot. The first one that didn't make this list was Donkey Kong Country. I wanted to give a shout out to Donkey Kong Country because that first one was fantastic. I loved it. But the game that we played the most by far is the original Mario Kart. And I'm not much of a racing fan. I don't know. It just seems pretty basic, but the combination of, you know, the added element that like you could get all of these items and like throw stuff at people, and you know there's all these secret shortcuts, and you could, you know, everybody wanted to race as Yoshi, but nobody wanted to race as like Mario or anything like that. Yeah, to this day, Mario Kart is still a game that I play a lot because I own a Switch, and that Mario Kart 8 is legit. It's still.
Oh, dude, the Mario Kart on the new Switch 2 is open world.
Oh my God!
You can play it. You can play it like Mario Kart with the races, but like Forza Horizon, it has an open world thing where you can just literally drive all over the freaking place, smash shit. And I was like, I haven't played it yet. He was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, I love that. Like, I love that Nintendo is just, they're so far outside of the box at this point that, you know, I love what they're doing inside their own universe, you know?
Yeah. So. Well, and I don't know, like the original Mario Kart was great. It's one of those time capsule games that if we don't get the original Mario Kart game, we don't get the Mario Kart 64, which that was a big game at sleepovers when I was in like middle school. In college, Mario Kart Double Dash was a big deal in like high school and college. And then, to this day, my daughter even plays it on the Switch, and we have a lot of fun with it too. So the original Mario Kart, look, there's a lot of other Mario spin-off games like Mario Party, Mario Soccer, or Mario Baseball or whatever, but Mario Kart for me is the one that just takes the cake, takes the checkered flag, if I may.
So ironically, number 7 for me was Donkey Kong Country.
There we go.
It was another game that, as someone who played the original Donkey Kong, when Donkey Kong Country come out, it was like, all right, this is cool. Like, this is a whole, this was a whole new step for Donkey Kong, man. Like, they took Donkey and made him 3D and, gave him Diddy Kong and gave him, the minecart areas and the bananas and the vultures and all the different shit. And it was pretty challenging.
It was pretty challenging.
Until you got used to it. Like, some of the boards, you had to have really good timing. Mm-hmm. And, there were more than a few thrown controllers during the first few months of me first playing Donkey Kong Country. So, number 7 for me is Donkey Kong Country. And honorable mention to Donkey Kong Country 2. That was Diddy's Revenge was a great one too, but I played more than
both of those are great games. Love that you picked that. Very similar to what, I very similar stories of getting frustrated at Donkey Kong. One of the rare games that you could actually save where you were, and you could pick it back up. Yeah.
So you didn't have to go like all the way to the way, you could go halfway. But that was a pain in the ass sometimes too, because you could get power-ups at the beginning and then hit the halfway point, and if you died, you didn't have your fucking power-up when you come back. You couldn't go backwards to get it, which was one of the things that used to piss me off. Like, all right, you put the power-ups at the fucking end too, you cocksuckers.
Right.
Number 6.
My number 6, as I mentioned before, I'm a Sega Genesis person through and through. And there is no greater mascot for Sega Genesis than Sonic the Hedgehog. So Sonic the Hedgehog, it was the game that, like, my dad got me the Sega Genesis when the game that came with the console was Altered Beast. And I loved Altered Beast. Like, in fact, I actually have the game downloaded because if you're an Apple user, Altered Beast is a game that you could download off the App Store. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. But Sonic the Hedgehog eventually became the mascot, and pretty much that's the game that you got with the console. But for me, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a better game. And there's only 2 reasons why Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a slightly better game. It's because they introduced Tails into the game, and it gave you the ability to fly, so that was cool. But it introduced the Sonic Spinball, which was super useful. And I tried playing the first Sonic game recently, and I tried doing the Sonic Spinball, and it was like, nope, you can't do it. I'm like, what are we doing here? This is ridiculous. So for that reason, pretty much alone, I had to go with Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
The Hedgehog 2. Believe it or not, I played Sonic a lot, but weirdly, the one that I played the most was Sonic Pinball.
Oh, I love Sonic Pinball.
I played that. Like, when that came out, for some reason, that caught my attention, and I played that relentlessly. One, growing up, again, in arcades, I played pinball a lot. Kiss Pinball, we played. God, like, we would have lines of people waiting to play Kiss Pinball. Because that was the pinball machine to play. So you had to, like the old days when you lined your quarters up along the edge. You would literally put your quarter in where you were in line is, who played next. Or if you were playing at the pool tables, put 50 cents down, I got next. So yeah, I played Sonic Pinball a ton. And I played Sonic 2 and 3 quite a bit. I don't remember ever playing the original Sonic. I'm sure I must have. I know we had Sonic 3 a lot. Sonic 3 is the one that had not only Tails, it had Knuckles.
Yep.
So, I remember playing that one a lot. But, yeah, the Sonic games were great, and you had the great villain to go with it. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It was definitely a good thing for Genesis. Obviously, Nintendo had Mario, and Sega needed something to go head to head with them.
Sonic was
a great, and played Alter Beast more than I should too.
With Sonic 2 as well, there was two other elements that I loved a lot about it. The first is the special, like the special zones where you got to try to get the Chaos Emeralds, where you had to like collect the rings and you're just running down this track. I always thought that those were a lot of fun. But the other one as well is that there was one zone that was based on a casino, and that was something that I love to do way more sometimes than actually like finishing the level, is just playing the slots. That's probably why I have an unreasonable obsession with playing slot machines now. Thanks, Sega Genesis.
Teaching us to gamble before we were old enough to gamble.
Right.
Awesome. I love the Sonic. Number 6 for me, you mentioned it earlier, at Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 led to my obsession with my number 5. But Street Fighter 2 was a great game. Like you said, you had the big arcade versions of it, and then they put it on Super NES, and it snowballed from there, and they made that terrible movie with Van Damme.
What are you talking about, terrible? All-American Colonel William Guile played by some guy from Belgium? What are you talking about?
Right. And the fact that Gomez Adams played, it's like, what is going on here? Like, why is Gomez playing the bad guy?
Oh, yeah. That is
so many things. I've read that they're wanting to redo it.
I've heard that as well. I've heard some of the rumors or like confirmed people that they've got lined up for that, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about
I don't know. I haven't heard casting other than one of the people they want is Scott Adkins in it, and I'm okay with Scott Adkins in it because he's a badass. Like he's as close to a superhero as you can fucking get by today's standards.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'm cool with Scott Adkins being in it. Managed to put Donnie Yen in there somewhere, and we're cool. No idea what the fuck Donnie Yen would play Street Fighter, but anywho,
great question on that. I got a question for you. Who is your guy? Who is the person that you picked as your typical fighter?
I played the Beast dude.
Oh, the Blanca.
Blanca, yeah. I played with Blanca a lot, but I played with Yando. I like that he could, reach out, bitch slap somebody.
Yeah, that's what they should have called it. The 100 arm bitch slap. Yeah. That's what they should have called it. Yeah,
I won't repeat. I won't repeat what my friends used to call it because it's not appropriate. It's a good name. It's a good name for it, but it was just not something that you would say in proper company. And I'm not trying to like get us banned or anything. So yeah, Street Fighter 2 is my number 6. Number 5.
Well, that segues into my number 5, which is the one that you said earlier, which is Super Mario Brothers 3. So, the only other thing that I have to say about Super Mario Brothers 3 is that like so many other people, I saw the Super Mario Brothers movie when it came out last year, and the nods that it has to Super Mario Brothers 3, I greatly enjoyed. Still waiting for that angry son to attack everyone. That was always a super frustrating level to play, but it was always a lot of fun. So yeah, we talked about Super Mario Brothers 3 a lot, and don't really have much to add to it besides it's a lot of fun. It's a great game.
It was. So my number 6 led to my obsession with number 3. This is a game that I played on the arcade console more than on a game console, even though it came to game console later. Still played the later versions, but this was another game that I could knock the shit out of people. Tekken 3, give me Law, and I would just do that fucking backwards flip over and over and over and over. And just I had the timing down, or I could do it like one after the other, just repeatedly. And it was one of them ones that, if you're good at it. But it had so many other great characters too. Like Tekken 3 was just, in the context of fighting games, Tekken 3 really was as good as it gets as far as gameplay and the different elements that it had, man. Like every character in that game was a beast if you knew how to use it.
Yeah.
For lack of a better way. Like you could kick somebody's ass easily if you concentrated and knew how to use that character correctly. I just so happened for me, the button combinations for Law were the ones that I was the best with, and I liked Law. He had the little Bruce Lee thing going on. So, but there were other ones too, the little cyborg ninja dude. There was a bunch of them that in Tekken 3 that, and Tekken, if they were to really properly do it and get good people to do it, Tekken is a game that they could turn into a really great movie. Not that terrible shit that they passed off as a Tekken movie with the white dude playing Law. But anywho, number 5 for me is Tekken 3. Number 4.
So I'm gonna level with you. I've got anxiety, just like a lot of people out there. And I think a lot about where the origins of my anxiety came from sometimes. And I think
it probably comes from my number 4.
So I've had struggles with, just overthinking things my whole life. It could have been my parents. But in reality, I think a major reason why I have anxiety is because of the game Tetris. So there was something about when you got all the way to the top.
Did I forget to put that on my list? Oh my God.
So first of all, it's a great game where you can learn problem solving. There is nothing more frustrating when you have all jagged spaces and you get the 2x2 block and you're like, fuck, where do I put this now? And then everything looks all janky, and then all of a sudden you start to spiral out of control, and then the music starts speeding up once it gets higher up, and then when you get all the way to the top, you feel like a goddamn failure. And what do you do right after that? You press start, you start over, and you do it all over again. So I'm pretty sure Tetris did give me contribute to giving me anxiety, but specifically I like the Game Boy version because I like the music better in the Game Boy version. There was something really cool about playing it on the Nintendo where you get to see the castle shoot up in the sky and the colors change as well. But yeah, Tetris will always have a large place in my heart, even if it gives me heartburn to think about it today.
So I am a Tetris fanatic. How I didn't think about putting that on my list, I don't know. I still play Tetris. He loves to watch me play Tetris because the summer that I worked at Cedar Point, it was another game. The employee rec center had 4 pool tables for the employees to play, but they had one single arcade game, and it was a Tetris machine.
Ooh.
And me and my roommate Rick would have epic, nasty battles playing Tetris against each other on our breaks, to the point where we literally would run out of time and have to be like, hey, come take this over for me. I got to go back to work, because we'd still going at each other. So we would run the scores up on Tetris, man. Tetris is still one of the new version of Tetris I hate because it has the flashing colors and the backgrounds, and it's like
I agree.
God, if you're not epileptic, that motherfucker
it's gonna turn you. It's gonna turn you into one.
like it is so overpowering and so bright and so just the screen is like it's like how about some goddamn warning or something? Like,
Right.
jeez. Number 4 for me, I know is a game that caused massive anxiety for young kids. It caused a ton of anxiety for me and probably millions of others. It's a game we all played in school because it was one of the only games that the schools would have. My number 4 is Oregon Trail.
Oh, I can't believe that's
Oregon Trail was so fun to play, but was so incredibly frustrating. Literally to the point where I don't have it in here. There was actually a board game version of Oregon Trail that I own. And it's like a combination of card, sort of like Monopoly almost. Mm-hmm. And it is just as frustrating and incredibly make you want to punch your grandma as the original. I wish I knew what that fucking thing was. Anyways, Oregon Trail is my number 4. I think anyone that's over the age of 30, maybe even 25, will understand what we're talking about with this one because, getting to California from Springfield and avoiding the Indians and hepatitis and listeria, dysentery.
Always dysentery.
So many freaking things, man. It was that perfect storm of game that, and you couldn't get away from it because, if you were in school and you finished your work early, you got to play on the computer. Mm-hmm. And you were going to say, no, I'm not going to go have fun on the computer. But what did the computers have? They had Oregon Trail pretty much. That was, they had Oregon Trail and Excitebike. Those were your 2 choices. So, we played a lot of Oregon Trail. And where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? So, number 3, what you got at number 3?
So that actually segues nicely into mine because this was a game that we got to play at school quite often because growing up, there were, we got to play Oregon Trail. One game that we got to play, Mario Teaches Typing. That was always a lot of fun. But the game that I think played the most in we had a tech class that we could play was SimCity 2000. And
oh, wow. God, I wish we would have had that.
And those SimCity games are so much fun to play because you got to build this city, no regard for anything like taxes or zoning permits or any of that other crap that goes into building a city. No, the only thing that you really wanted to do when you built your city is to build it big enough to where you could find a way to destroy it with something. Like you could destroy it with a tornado or a giant flood or an alien invasion or some stupid shit like that. But SimCity also gives you the ability to be, flex your creative muscle a little bit, where you have to think about things like, okay, if I'm putting my school there, like I got to build a road that gets people to this school. So, it gave you a little bit of civic responsibility as well. So SimCity 2000.
The Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, I love Roller Coaster Tycoon. That was always so much fun. But yeah, SimCity 2000, playing that pre-2000 is hilarious because you could have like the futuristic aspects of it. And you're like, man, the year 2000 is going to be great. And then when the calendar turned January 1st, 2000, it's like, oh, fuck, everything's just the same as it was before. Awesome. Okay. I almost picked the conspiracy theory list and the Y2K would have been.
Actually, I just did that one. That is this week's show.
Nice.
That is what me and Jeremy did because Jeremy's he's into the cryptoids and all that. So I did that one with him.
Nice.
So that one actually is the one that you will get next Thursday.
Cool.
So that's the next one on the list. Number 3 for me is the game that is responsible for more curse words, more broken controllers, holes in drywall, throwing soda cans, black eyes, and bruises than any of the games on my list. That is the game Super Contra. Super Contra, to this day, can kiss my proverbial ass. That game was just unnecessarily hard. with no save points. You could literally get to the very end playing against the boss. You would die and go all the way back to the beginning. Start over with no power-ups, nothing that you had gained. And like I said, I will not say what crimes were committed, but let's just say that punches were thrown, words were tossed around, pop cans were thrown, maybe a broken window or two, multiple broken controllers. No game that I've ever played could bring out the frustration like Super Contra. Like Super Contra was just ridiculously fucking unnecessarily hard. And I had one friend who could play it perfectly. And I hated him so badly because he was just like, and I was like,
son of a bitch.
Screw you. So he spent as much time ducking me throwing controllers at him as he did. That's my number 3. And yeah.
Good call on that one.
That's all the information that the police will get from me. Number 2. What do you got at number 2?
So this is the game that is like the furthest out that I consider. This is like the close off of where I could say like, hey, growing up, this is a game that I played a lot, because this is also the only PlayStation game that I have on here, like the only original PlayStation game on here, because I could have picked a lot of games on the PlayStation because there were a lot of amazing games.
Damn, I just remembered one I forgot.
But I'm no good at first-person shooters. I was the kid that at sleepovers, when everybody was playing GoldenEye, I was the asshole in the corner who like couldn't figure out how to get out of it or how to like aim properly. It's the same reason why when I was in college, I hated playing Halo against people. But the one where you're a third-person shooter, where there's an actual adventure component to it, and you got to solve some puzzles and all that shit too, those were my jam. And that all started because of Resident Evil. So the first Resident Evil game in the mansion, to me, is just, it's a perfect game. Actually, no, that's not true, because the dialogue is horrendous. But it sparked a love of games. God, there were a couple times that game scared the crap out of me. It did really well with like the jump scares. Yeah, the first Resident Evil game just will always have a very important place in my heart. So I have a PS5 now. Like, I don't really play video games much, but one game that I am very interested in playing again is the remastered versions of Resident Evil. So yeah, the first one, I love most of the games. I don't like that they went a couple first-person shooter versions of the game, but whatever, who am I to judge, right?
Yeah. My number 2, right along that lines, I played it. My girlfriend's father was one of the first, my girlfriend at the time, her father was one of the first people I knew that had a PC with dial-up internet, AOL to be specific. And he had Doom, and I played quite a bit of Doom, mainly because he had the rule that, we were not allowed upstairs alone, blah, 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 blah. So we spent a lot of time in the living room, and we would play Doom on the computer just to spend time together. Because, when the old man is fucking watching you from the corner, ain't a whole lot of shit that can happen. So, you just kind of roll with it.
Right.
So my number 2 is Doom on PC, AOL specifically.
It's Doom, Duke Nukem, and Quake were all kind of in that.
I will throw another one in there. My very first year at college, Saginaw Valley State was one of the very first colleges to be involved in a program with Apple. And they had Mac labs as opposed to just the PC labs. They had Mac labs. And they would set up LAN parties playing Marathon, which is like fucking Quake on steroids. And they invited me one day, let's come play Marathon. And I was like, what the fuck is Marathon? And I was watching them, and I was just like, yeah. My brain instantly went back to Contra, and I was like,
No.
Yeah, these are completely too throwable. I will launch one of these fucking things across the line playing this game. You do not want me playing Marathon, bro. That game was wicked hard. And I would listen to them scream and call each other names playing Marathon. But I played Doom a lot. I played Doom 3 more. Doom 64 was still the one, is the creepiest one. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Doom 64, but that's the one that when I play it, it still makes the hair on my arm stand up. Like there's just something really dark and freaking creepy about Doom 64. So my number 2 is Doom. So we're down to our number 1s. We've talked about a lot of really great games. Some that we forgot about, some that, and one that I want to mention really quickly that popped into my brain when you said PlayStation is a game called Road Rash. I played an egregious amount of Road Rash when I first discovered that. So have to show love to Road Rash because nothing was cooler than a motorcycle racing game that you could beat people with baseball bats.
Right.
And chains and various other, I think it was chains, pipes, baseball bats, and something else.
I remember that game. I love that game. It was a lot of fun.
It was repetitive, but it was fun. Number 1, what's your big boy? Like, what's the one, so to speak, that kind of tops them all?
There was no doubt in my mind that this was going to be number 1 when I decided to pick this list. This is a game that I played a ton at the local arcade that was called Fun Harbor by us. When this came to the console as well, Sega, I had to convince my mom to get it for me because she had heard how violent the game was and that she was concerned. And I said, oh, you could turn off the blood. No worries about that. But of course, you turn it back on when she's not looking. So who cares? This caused a lot of strife with my friends. Feelings were hurt. And the sequels were pretty great as well. And then it solidified it with a movie that came out in the 90s that I just adore because it had that theme song. And as soon as you hear it, Mortal Kombat!
Nice.
It gets you hyped up and gets you ready to go. So my number 1 with the pin in it is Mortal Kombat. I had a buddy of mine who he was the preacher's son and he wasn't allowed to play Mortal Kombat at his house because his dad thought it was too violent. So he would come over to my house where my mom, who had to work 2 jobs quite frequently, he'd come over to my house, play it, and we would get so frustrated at the game. And it's weird because in that original Mortal Kombat game, the main boss is not that difficult. It's the boss before that you had to worry about. So that the original Mortal Kombat game, to this day, introduced like a whole new level of violence out there that I was just not prepared for. Just any time that like something happens and it just seems like so devastating and so final. Like to this day, I still say fatality. And there's so many people out there like, what are you talking about? All the way off.
Right.
So yeah, my Mortal Kombat for me is the game that I instantly think about when I think about video games growing up. It's probably why I'm so fucked up.
So my number 1, to relate it to your story of Pizza Hut, we had a place. I grew up in Lapeer, or up around Flint, Michigan, Lapeer, Michigan. We had a place called Village Inn. And Village Inn was the be-all, end-all. It was a pizza joint with a video rental section. It had an arcade. It had an ice cream parlor all in one. It was this big, giant, Casa Grande type of place.
That place sounds like the tits.
Oh, dude, it was so fun. And they had an arcade that was pretty big. It had a lot. It had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It had the Tekken machine. It had Street Fighters. It had all of that. But the one that I played the most, and to this day, I still say I put this guy's kids to college on this machine, was the game Gauntlet.
Gauntlet. Oh, I cannot believe I fucking didn't include that on this list.
I played Gauntlet religiously. I probably put I bet you at a time when I was 15 years old, I put $40 a week in that machine single-handedly through quarters. Wore my hands and arms out, because Gauntlet was a motherfucker of a game. Like, if you have never played Gauntlet, for those of you listening, if you have never played Gauntlet, you have never played a game that was hard on your body. Like, you would wear, like if you've ever been in a gym class and had an asshole gym teacher, or if you've ever gone through basic training and had an asshole drill sergeant do cherry pickers or do arm circles, okay? Gauntlet was that shit on steroids, okay? The fucking tapping motion with the back and forth motion, the just completely insane onslaught of everything that Gauntlet threw at you. Gauntlet was a beast of a game, but it was so fun. And the version that I played the most of was Dark Legacy, because that was the one that had, they basically took it from its basic form into a more 3D colorful version, and it had the Valkyrie, it had the wizard, it had it had like 4 different or 5 different characters you could play, and you could play them all at the same time, so you could team up and really do some crazy shit. And we spent a lot of time playing Turtles in Time, a lot of time on Street Fighter, but Gauntlet was the one. When me and my buddy Troy rode in, pretty much everybody knew if you were on Gauntlet, and get the fuck out of our way. That was our machine. You might as well have just fucking put a sign on it with our name on it. But Village Inn was awesome. You could order a large pizza, and he had the big dining area, and then he had the arcade over here. The ice cream was over here, and the video rental was back there. So you could get you a pizza, you could play video games, grab an ice cream cone, and then on your way out, you could grab a couple, horror movies that you were completely not supposed to rent. And he would kind of, I'm just going to place this over here. I didn't actually see you take it off the counter, type of thing. Jim was super cool. Mm-hmm. A man was a fucking superhero. Like, he was a modern day superhero. And pizza was to die for, bro. Like, it was a locally owned place. And it was a big old place. It wasn't a small place. Like, it was, and broke my heart when he died and his son didn't want to take it over, and it just kind of went into ruin, and then the city knocked it down, replaced it with a donut shop, which sucked balls. But yeah, I thought it was a dick move. His son didn't want to take it over, considering I pretty much paid for his college education. Like, 20 quarters at Gauntlet. But yeah, Gauntlet is my number one, man.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad at myself for not thinking about Gauntlet.
I feel the same way about Tetris. Like, I can't believe I forgot Tetris.
Because Gauntlet would be pretty high up there for me. It's a game on the NES that played all the time. My dad and I, to this day, still occasionally, like, if somebody is running out of steam or someone looks like they're about to pass out, be like, green elf is about to die. Green elf is about to die. So, like, had I not played Gauntlet, I wouldn't have liked other games that came out later, like Golden Axe on Sega or Heroes of Might and Magic. Even go so far as to say Diablo as well. I wouldn't have enjoyed those games.
Diablo definitely was a lot like Dark Legacy. I would tell you right now, when he plays Minecraft. So when he got Minecraft Dungeons and he was playing that, I finally sat down one day to watch him. And I just kept thinking, holy shit, that looks like Gauntlet. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, that is, whoever designed this played fucking Gauntlet. There is just no way around it. Like, there's no human possible way that whoever designed Minecraft Dungeons can deny having played Gauntlet, because the maps, the concept, the movement, the weapons, everything about that game screams Gauntlet, and it's fucking awesome. I love the fact that game has that spirit of what Gauntlet had. I suck at it. He kicks my ass at it, but it's still a fun game to play, and it's just one of them games that, I love that a modern company or a modern day version sort of exists. And it's another game that I would love to see them do a modern version of. I would love to see.
I think it would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good pick. Such a good pick.
And I knew that was going to be my number one immediately because, like I said, there was no game that I played more than Gauntlet. Like I literally. So as a foster kid, the state gave our foster parents, X amount of money because I was in a private company. The foster parents got their ration, but they provided us $100 a month as an allowance. We got $25 a week. Now we could take the whole $100 at the beginning of the month, and then we were just, when it was gone, or we could get $25 a week, or however much. But we got $100 a month to spend on entertainment, essentially, for us to go to the movies, to go to football games, to whatever. My money went to Village. Like it just, as soon as I got that money, bam, it was pizza and Gauntlet. And if you wanted to know where I was on a Friday night, I was at the Village Inn, and I would stroll into that son of a bitch, normally about 4:00, school let out at 3:15. I'd get down there. It was enough time for me to get home, grab my money, and scoot the 3 blocks down to Village Inn. And my ass was there until 9:30 when they closed. That was my Friday night. There was no roller skating, no football games, no other random bullshit. It was, Gauntlet and pizza. If you wanted to find me, table number 3 next to the Gauntlet machine is where you would find me. It literally got to the point where, he made jokes about me just taking phone calls there. Because, that's where I conducted business. And that's my number one. With all that said, you've heard our top 10s. We're going to wrap this one up because we got more planned. And as always, be well, treat each other with kindness. Remember, no matter what you're going through, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and music heals.